Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans, and I am the People's Voice. Thank you again for checking out the podcast this week. As always, it is greatly appreciated. As always, we thank everyone who has taken some time to listen to the podcast today. We do understand that you could be utilizing your time to do something else, so we are appreciative that you're taking that time to spend with us. As always, if this information is valuable and you find it to be enlightening and worth sharing, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast and turn on notifications. That way you can be notified when each episode is released, and we do put out a new episode each and every Friday, which can be heard on all music and streaming podcast platforms. In addition, we also put a video out on YouTube as well for those of you who would like to watch the podcast. But in any event, we say welcome, and welcome to the People's Voice podcast. And apologies ahead of time. I'm a little under the weather today, so if my voice sounds a little raspy, that's what that's about. But today, I wanted to get into the topic of Halloween. I wanted to talk about Halloween. The Halloween season is upon us, and I thought this would be a good time to talk a little bit about, first of all, the origins of Halloween. Also want to talk about a lot of the conversation that has been going on, definitely the last 5 years, but even going further back than that, about whether or not this should be something that we still celebrate. And this conversation has been going on nationally and internationally as well. And then want to talk about some of the arguments around why many people are moving away from it. And then we'll close out from there. So that's what I want to talk about today, Halloween. To get started, I think a good place to get started is to talk a little bit about the origins of Halloween as we know it today, because the origins go back literally thousands of years, and has evolved into what we, or at least many of us, celebrate today. I was reading an article from history.com that kind of highlighted, or gave a little bit of a timeline, if you will, of some of the origins of the day itself. And for some of you who may know this already, this may just be a refresher. And for some of you who don't know, this is maybe new information. But the holiday itself originated from the Celtic festival, which was a festival known as the Festival of the Samhain, or Samhain. I believe I'm saying that right, or Samhain. And it was the marking of the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, when the Celts believed spirits would return to the earth. Now, this is, we're talking about 2000 BC. This is during ancient times, during the ancient period where the Celts in Ireland and Britain and northern France celebrated this event. So this is the origin, if you will, of the event. It went through a ton of evolution from there. There was some Roman influence as well in 43 BC, and then there were additional evolutions from that period. But many of the celebrations that we know of today, or that many of us have participated in, has really started during the 8th century, when Pope Gregory III established what was known as All Saints' Day, and this was established on November 1st. This was a time to honor all saints. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve and later became Halloween. So in terms of the origins of this, it literally goes back thousands of years. But a lot of what we know today as Halloween was a result of a celebration the day before All Saints Day, which was known at that time as Hallows Eve. So I wanted to just give a little bit of background on that. I don't want to go too much into it because it can get rather boring, to say the least. And for broadcast purposes, I don't want to tire anyone out. But of course, I'll put the links to all of this information so you can check it out and do some research yourself. But I want to kind of give that as the backdrop to elevate the conversation and, to where we are at today. So in current day, Halloween is a very, very popular holiday, not just nationally here in the States, but as well as internationally as well. And because of that, there has been a ton of conversation around who should be celebrating and if we still should be celebrating it, given that a lot of this information that I just gave is now becoming common knowledge to many people, because obviously so much is accessible via the internet now, where all of us have the opportunity to kind of research why we even participate in a lot of these celebrations, because a lot of it is just participation by social conditioning without really knowing the origins of it. But because this is getting so much attention, this was recently discussed on a news program in Australia, because there was a school in Melbourne, Australia, who recently had decided that they were going to not celebrate in Halloween for various reasons, and then reversed their decision. So actually, let me play a piece of that story. And this is from Sky News in Melbourne, in Australia. Sorry. This is from Sky News. So I'll play a piece of that, and then I'll go on from there. But this is the conversation
down in having. Melbourne, St. Mike.
Sorry, this was the conversation they were having about Halloween. So let me play that, and then we'll go on from there.
Down in Melbourne, St. Michael's Grammar School in St. Kilda previously had a ban on celebrating Halloween. The chaplain sent out a note saying this is opposed to Christian values. It practices occult, spiritual stuff, and we don't want that at a Christian school. But now they appear to have reversed that and said people are free to celebrate as they wish. I think it is perfectly reasonable for a Christian school to say Halloween is against our values and we don't think it should be celebrated. So the idea that they're now reversing that, well, I guess it's up to them as a school, but stick to your values.
I mean, yeah, do what you want, basically. I couldn't particularly care less whether they do it or don't. I'm not a great Halloween person. But it's sort of one of those things that even though it has roots in spirituality or religion, it's just sort of transcended that, like Christmas and Easter. I mean, for goodness sake, they even celebrate Christmas in China now.
Sorry, and wanted to kind of piggyback on that for those who may not know, when he says that they even celebrate Christmas in China, because China is, for those of you who don't know, is designated as an atheist country. So religion is not part of their construct. And so the fact that they are now even celebrating Christmas as well, that his argument is saying, well, if China can get, I should say, accept and adapt to some of the religious overtones, or accept religion being practiced in their country, the religious overtones of Halloween should not be an issue in this discussion. But I'll play the rest of this and then I'll go on from there.
And I mean, the religion is not allowed in China. They even celebrate Christmas over there because it is transcended the religious element of it. Of course, that is the undercurrent to it. But, you know, for a lot of people, Christmas is a time to gather with family, and it means a lot of other things as well. And so Halloween is probably in that bag too. I mean, it's just an excuse for kids to eat lots of chocolates and drum up business for dentists, isn't it?
But also, is it really that offensive to Christian values? Like, who are we offending by, putting up a few jack-o'-lanterns or putting people...
Well, I mean, imagine...
And I won't play the rest of it, but that's some of the conversation that you are getting not only internationally, but nationally as well. And a lot of it is legitimate in my perspective because there is a religious overtone to Halloween. Even as he was mentioning there, like, what's the big thing about dressing up in costumes? Well, a lot of the history that is associated and connected to the holiday is because, like, for instance, the costumes that were originally worn by the Celts during the Samhain festival, those costumes were worn to disguise the Celts, who believed that there were ghosts, and they put on the costumes to confuse the ghost. And then, of course, this later evolved into, costume wearing and things of that nature. So, his argument about disputing what the religious overtones is and why someone who would be offended by it, I think is a little off base, but it is consistent because, as I said, many people don't actually know the origins of the holiday. So they're only going based on what they have known to this point, which is it's just a holiday where many people dress up and have fun and eat candy. As I said, this conversation is not only happening nationally, internationally, but nationally as well. There was recently a school in Bakersfield, California, who came under a lot of heat because they decided, or at least their principal decided, that he would not be participating or allowing the school to participate in Halloween this year. Matter of fact, I'm reading an article from Bakersfield.com, and there was a school in Bakersfield, California called Singlum Elementary, where basically their principal said that they are not going to be celebrating in it this year because he wanted to maintain, well, he cited distraction in terms of the students, in terms of the learning environment, but he also talked about the uninclusiveness that it could bring as well, because costumes cost money. There are some families that can't afford it right now, and he wanted to do away with it. Now, he tried this last year. There was some pushback and he folded, but this particular, for this school year, he's held to his decision, and that school is not having any Halloween. So there's been a lot of conversation about that. And not only is it in California, but this has been happening nationwide. Matter of fact, last year there was an article in Ed Week where they polled over 336 school leaders, and in their response, those school leaders said that they don't allow students to wear Halloween costumes at school. And some of the reasons that they gave for that was that they want to be more culturally sensitive, inclusive, and cognizant that some families may not have the financial resources to buy costumes. And this is a legitimate concern, especially with the way the current state of the economy is today and in the United States, and as well as you have many of these families who are government workers, and with the current government shutdown, I can't imagine what that pressure is like to try to participate in this holiday, knowing the financial investment that often has to be made, because some of these costumes become very elaborate. But not only was financial resources cited, but also many of the school leaders also cited that they wanted to cut down on the costumes because some of the costumes were a safety concern, and even they felt were very much offensive because, many of these costumes, these kids walk into these classrooms with costumes that, have blood and missing limbs and things of that nature. So there's a variety of reasons why many school leaders are doing away with Halloween celebrations, which, in my opinion, are understandable. I don't agree with all of them, but they're definitely understandable. Matter of fact, last year in Jersey, an entire school district, not just a school, but an entire school district decided that they were not going to allow their children,
no treats.
They were not going to allow their students to participate in Halloween. So let me play that quickly from there, and then I'll talk slightly about some of the other factors about moving away from Halloween, and then I'll close out from there. But this is from News Nation, where they talked about their school last year in Jersey.
This will be had for some New Jersey students this year.
Yeah, I just love Halloween. It's happy, but the reason why they're canceling it even has the state's Democratic governor calling the decision nonsense. So keep that in mind here. The Maplewood South Orange School District is calling off celebrations after a survey of the school's principals found most wanted to cancel the plans. A letter to parents said the holiday didn't align with their message of diversity, equity, and inclusion, citing the potential financial hardship of some of those students' families to even afford costumes in the first place, and the violation of some students' cultural and religious beliefs as the reasons for this change. But they're not alone either. Other schools in states like Massachusetts and Michigan, and in cities like Philly, Boston, Seattle, they have canceled their own Halloween plans as well.
And so, as I said, this is not just a single school or something that's occurring overseas, internationally. This is occurring nationally as well, and is gaining a lot of steam. The tradition itself, just like many traditions that we celebrate, are often a result of social conditioning, which in social conditioning, what happens is that you are just accepting, for those of you who don't know, that's why I'm explaining it, you just accept that it is part of the norm because it has been done for previous generations or previous years. And so you don't even question it. You just say, well, this is a part of what we've always done, so you continue to do it. And me personally, I like the pushback that is occurring with not only Halloween, but all holidays. Matter of fact, I've done a piece on Thanksgiving as well, talked about some of those origins as well. If you want to check that out, I'll post that as well, so you can take a look and listen to that as well. But, a lot of these holidays have some distinguishing origins to them. And as we evolve as individuals, I think our thinking and what we choose to celebrate has to evolve as well. And then when you incorporate, some of the financial challenges that many of the families are currently dealing with, again, I can understand that as well. And I can understand the decision why many schools have decided to move away from celebrating Halloween and kind of change the theme of the day, made it more of either a fall festival-like celebration, or some schools have even decided to call it Character Day, where they allow students who can dress up in costumes the ability to dress up in costumes if they want to. It's not kind of this is Halloween and everybody has to dress up kind of situation, which puts a lot of pressure on families and children as well. So give me your thoughts. I'll, as usual, if you want to leave a comment, I'll post the video on YouTube, and you can also reach me at the People's Voice Podcast on Instagram. And listen, all comments are welcome, and we appreciate you giving a listen and watching today. But as always, dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans. The People's Voice. Tell somebody about the dream. Salute.